Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. As you can see, this time we're looking at a couple of RAM expansions here for the Amiga 1200. So these belong to one of my patrons actually, Alex, a great guy. I think I looked at it was his 1200 I looked at, wasn't it? Now when he sent that, I think it was it this RAM expansion? It might have been another one. Could have been this one. I don't know, it looks like someone's been tinkering around there, maybe reflowed that, I don't know. We could reflow that anyway, clean that up. So when I looked at Alex's A1200, I think I put a switchable mod on his RAM board, but it wasn't working as expected, and I mentioned it to Edu Arana, and I think he'd suggested putting a pull up or a pull down or something, but that didn't work either. Alex investigated a bit, couldn't get any further with it, so he ordered another RAM expansion, and problems ensued from that point. Can you see here? You can see just down there a little copper pin, you know, a gold coloured contact. It's got squashed in, and it didn't kind of make sense. He was thinking, well, I plugged it in really carefully, it was a bit stiff, but why are the pins bending? And then he looked back at the one that I'd stuck the switch on for, and it had the same issue. So then he got another one, and lo and behold, the same thing happened again. I'm laughing, but I shouldn't do really, because it's it's bad news. And there's one down there, look, and there's one there. So at that point, I don't know how he discovered, but he discovered that the issue lies with his A1200 motherboard. If you saw the Atari Jaguar video I did there, where I briefly looked at this skunk board, I will do a more in-depth look at this later, but the issue with this is the PCB edge was not shaved down. That isn't what caused the issue on my board, because my Jaguar already had a damaged pin. You could actually see it right at the start of the video. If you, the point where I focused and zoomed in on the slot there, you could actually see the pin was a problem right from the very start. And someone had been tinkering with the, you could see, you can't on these, but on the Jaguar slot, oh, you see these little holes? It's very similar to the Jaguar slot, that. Little plastic holes, the point where the pin had been damaged on my Jaguar. Someone had already been tinkering there, because that little hole was widened. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is the edge of the PCB can be the issue. So the one Alex has not got the beveled edge on the end of his A1200 expansion slot there. That is what has caused the issue here. So he since took a file to his 1200 edge there and smoothed it all down, and he's got a RAM expansion working. But these two obviously need to be dealt with one way or another. Now handily, he sent this as well, which is a brand new, unused, I think there's a bit of dirt or something there, yeah, brand new unused connector here, and it looks just like what we need really. There's a pin missing there, can you see that? So the one on the edge is obviously broke and it's been cut off for one reason or another. But I think what we can do here is we'll remove both of these, yeah, both of the connectors off those, fit this onto one of them, test it, make sure it's working. But then because we've got two of these then, I think I might be able to make one out of the two. It's just a question of how easy or hard it would be to, pull the pin, bend it upwards out of the, so where it goes through the board here and through the connector, pull it out of the bottom part of the connector, and then see if there's some way we can actually pull it out of the connector itself. If we can do that, we can borrow some of the contacts from one to fix the other. Does that make sense? And then hopefully the net result will be both of these hopefully should work. We'll also have one of these spare, which will have, I don't know, half a dozen connections missing. But that might be useful if I ever have to do future repairs of these. Now Alex has said that I could keep these, but I won't do that. I will try and get these working and we'll send these back. And if he's happy, I'm just happy to keep the faulty connector with some of the pins there, should I ever need to fix any of these for anybody else, or myself for that matter. Anyway, without further ado, I think we'll start on this one. I'll just get the desolder station and we'll have a go at removing the solder here. I don't anticipate this being easy because it's quite a thick PCB. I think it's only 2-layer, but it might not be. And just from experience, these kind of connections here, they can be, really resistant, especially on the grounds. You can see down here, all these here are going to be going to ground. That's going to absorb quite a bit of heat, so we might have to crank up the temperature on the desolder station in order to get that off. You can see, looking at that, it's got lots of flux on it already. Let's just have a go with one or two of these points here and see how we get on. Yeah, it's coming off. That looked like a ground to me. So maybe we'll be able to get through this without too much stress. Well, that wasn't too bad. I went over this side here a second time. I might need to do the same here, I don't know. Let's just see and just, I don't know, see what's going on with it now. Normally I would kind of do a bit of this. To be honest, lots of these pins do feel loose. It just feels like maybe it will it'll come off with very little effort here. I don't know. You can see it's starting to lift there, look, already. See, as I'm pressing the pins here, I can feel them snapping off. Actually, I just felt some there snap off. Just a little bit of pressure, like this. Obviously, the inside row we can't easily get to there. So yeah, some manipulation like this may be required. What you don't want to do is just wrench it off. The other thing you could do is just get some hot air onto this to assist. This sort of thing with this many pins here is never going to be that easy to get off. Not compared to just like a dip chip, but a little bit of wobbling like this, and you never know, we might get it off. So having got to this point, you can see it's moving a little bit. Some of the pins, you know, some of the rows here are free, the centre one's not so free. I think the safest thing to do is just use hot air. I could go over it again with a desolder station, but I think hot air is the way to go with this. Right, so we're about 420 degrees now. Let's just see if that's any easier. Oh, it's going to be super hard to get this off. So I had one more pin on this side that just needed freeing up, and yeah, gradually, there we go. Does it come out? Still stuck over here a little bit. What's sticking that now? Oh yeah, bear in mind one or two of these pins have been broken. That's one of the ones that got bent, look. Despite the fact being free there, it's just kind of stuck. Let's see if we can just pull that. There we go. Yeah, so looks like no through-hole plating or anything there. I mean, in terms of refitting one of these, I don't hold high hopes. You know, after you've pulled it off, and the pins are fairly straight there, but you might have a slight bend in it. You might need to straighten all of the pins when you've removed it like that. But as you can see, I'm confused now which side is which. It's that one. Yeah, no damage. No damage at all. Look at that. It's pristine. So at the very least, we can get a new connector on. And I picked this one for the new connector because this has got, I think, a 5.5 meg mode or something. Can you see here? You've got 8 meg, 5.5 meg, 4 meg, and it's got an FPU socket as well. So this is the better of the two boards. So I just feel it'd be better to put a brand new thing on this. I mean, what Alex will probably do, because he's already got a RAM module, I think, working with his system now, he'll probably end up selling this. If he wants to donate something to me afterwards, I'm happy for that, but to be honest, I'm getting videos out of these. He's given me a few little odds and ends in the past as well, so that's one of the reasons why I'm not bothered about doing these particular items for nothing really. And if we can fix the other one by kind of cannibalising the two sockets, and that's all the better really. Is that going in? Yeah, this side here just feels like it's sticking a bit. This is where you need to stop and inspect under magnification just to make sure these are all straight, but also make sure that the holes here are all okay. Hold it up to the light and have a look through the holes. Yeah, we got one pin there that needs unblocking. Now you could just use a manual desolder pump. That might be the easiest thing. Oh, it's proving very difficult to get some solder onto that. So let's just try that again with the Heiko here. get a little bit of solder on there, and we'll use the engineer to solder pump here. That came from Andrew Littleboy, and the soldering iron was Dermot Sweeney. Thank you very much, guys, because donations like this are what help the channel keep going. Yeah, I'm not sure what is going on there. Let's just add a little bit of solder on this side. I'm just trying to do those 2 pins there. Yeah, I think if I'd heated that much longer, we may have damaged it. Yeah, the pad there is not great. It's okay, it's all in one piece, but it's kind of like lifted out. Does that make sense? It's like almost like it was about to give way, that one pad. But anyway, there is no damage there. It's a bit dirty where it's been soldering there. But I think the connector should go on okay now. Let's just clean under there before we get that on. So yeah, you can see that's not perfect, that one, because it was proving very difficult to unblock. Let's just make sure I've got the brand new connector here. Yeah, that would be a flaw. That would be a mistake, wouldn't it? Putting the old one back on. There we go, straight on. Fits like a glove. So you can see that's nice and flat and stuff now. This is where when you put another one back on, like I say, you might need to bend the pins, every single one of them slightly, so that it fits flush like that. That said, if you can get it through the holes and it fits flush, you might just find the pins are pointing slightly, you know, that way rather than straight down. As long as you solder it and it holds in place that way, nothing lost. So we might be able to get the other one working as well yet. So let's anyway, let's just solder a couple of anchor points on this. And then we'll go test this one. It's important you try and hold and press the connector as flat as possible while you do this. Otherwise it might not line up with the Amiga properly. And then we'll do the same on the connections near the bottom there. Just press it nice and flat. Flip it around and do the same down here. And for good measure, because it's such a long connector, I'm going to do the middle as well here. And then we'll inspect it before committing to any more soldering. And again, we'll just we'll do over here as well. Yeah, there we go. Nice and straight. No problems there. And no problems there. Some people would just literally get lots of flux on this and drag solder this. You could just drag the iron like that and solder this super quick, like 20 seconds of a job probably. Well, that took me ages, around half an hour actually. If you want to see a really quick way to fit those, check out the link down below to, I think it's Chucky in the Gang's channel. He uses a wedge tip. I'm sure Stephen Leary does the same thing. Quite a wide wedge tip, and just got lots of flux and just drag solder. And within probably 30 seconds you can have that connector all done. So I do hope this works after all this. I've got no reason to believe it wouldn't work, unless some damage has occurred by those pins, you know, shorting or, you know, not being connected. But I think that's unlikely. You can see how dirty the board is there just by the colour of that. There we go. Not too bad at all. So, I guess we need to test it next. Right, let's do the next one. This one here is the better socket. You can see all the pins are alright apart from the edge 2 or 3 up here in this corner. So I think it's those 4 actually, 2 on that side and 2 on that side. Can you see that? Yeah, so you do need to remove it. You know, you can't really replace certainly that bottom one there. Maybe this one, the edge one, you could swap without having to take the whole thing off. Would be a bit fiddly, but you could do it. I think just to make this easier for me, I'm going to pull it off completely. Certainly because the inner ones are going to be super problematic. How do you replace that inner one? You could probably do the very edge one. It'd be a nightmare though, it'd be a nightmare. Certainly trying to get it lined up in here properly. And I don't even know whether we're going to be able to swap the pins from the other thing, the other socket into this. Got no idea. Anyway, let's have a go with that one now. I've set the temperature a little bit lower because I did notice on that last board, it was there were one or two pads where you could just see the PCB next to the pads was affected by the heat. That's the sort of thing you can do by having too high heat. You can damage the PCB itself. Especially when you're wobbling like this. In some ways, I prefer the old Weller I used to have, because you didn't. You had more control. The desoldering tip was here, where your fingers were. It was like easy to use. This thing, you're like a hand's height away from it. Just makes it a bit harder. I'm not sure that desoldered there properly. There we go. That's two exact same process. So this is the side we desolder from. I'll reflow that chip as well in a minute, because can you see? It doesn't look great, it just looks awful. And this is the side, obviously, that goes like that. There, I think. Yeah, it is, because I desoldered from this side here. And I know that because we'd lost a little bit of the solder mass there. Can you see that? It's like a ground or something around there. But got no damaged pins, no damaged pads, traces or anything. So this has come off in one piece here. We've got one pin there, can you see that? It just needs bending up slightly. This is the sort of thing you need to be careful of when you're trying to pull it off. If one pin is sticking, it's when you pull it, there you go, that's back in position, you'll pull them through, do you know what I mean? They'll get stuck to the board. Yeah, so all of the pins are good on this here. Obviously we thought it was this end, but it wasn't. I flipped the thing around here, look, it's these ones here. So we need to set that one, that one, that one, that. Yeah, four pins out on this side here. The inner ones could be problematic. I don't know if they're going to be able to do this or not. So re-inspecting this, actually it's only two pins. It's the second one. So the second one is kind of offset here. This is what's going to make this difficult. What I need to do is pull it out, up like that, carefully, and out. I can then just get the thing under there, just help us just pull that out. Look, it's come out of there, look. And then we need to somehow pull this out of there. And this is the thing I'm not sure about. I know on some sockets, like I showed on the Atari Jaguar one, you could do this. You could literally just get them to this position here. And then it would just carefully pull out. I'm not sure if it's glued in or a one-way thing, like you can push it in and then it won't come back out again. I don't know, but that is the pin we need to remove. So one of them I got out here. It looks just like the Atari Jaguar pin. Ignore this bend on the end here. That's the bit that goes through the board, and obviously it's bent a little bit because I've had to bend it to get it out. But you can see the bit here, and that's the bit as you push it into the slot there, and it hooks into the top bit there, I think, but then just hangs it down underneath. I'm probably not explaining that very well. The other one just broke off. So I've got a problem, because that top one there, that's all I need to do is get that top one out now. Can you see there's just a bit of it hanging on here? And that's the pin you can see in there. All the other pins are fine. So if I can just get that one out, then I can get some replacement pins in. I just don't know how to get it out. We may have to cut this plastic here. I don't know, because there's just no way, unless I can pull it or manoeuvre it from here somehow. I don't know. I need to get a pin in there and somehow try and pull that, but it's not gonna pull out from the front. Well, as usual, that was a nightmare. What I ended up doing is, as you can see, soldering a capacitor leg onto the very, very tip of the thing where it broke off, and just pulled straight, and it's just pulled out completely, and you can see the bent bit and everything in there. So, phew, that's that done. So hopefully I've not damaged anything else there. One of the two of the pins here, and you'll always have to do this if you've pulled one of these out yourself off the board, is, I don't know if you can see, not all of them are totally level, so you need to inspect with magnification. There's one there, can you see that? that one there is sticking out, so it's a case of using the right pliers here and grabbing it, just that one pin, and pushing it very hang on, I got the right one. I'm pushing it very carefully upwards a little bit, and do that with examine the profile all the way along. I can see another one or two here, look, but if we do that, it should be okay. Just need to get 2 new pins in there now. So this is the donor socket. You can see I lifted the pins out here just to give me access to get to the inner ones there, and I pulled one of each of those out. Where have they gone now? So I got one here, and the smaller one I've just started to push it in here. So this is the inner one. Now this inner one is going to be really difficult because it's going to be easy to get it in. It's not going to be easy to get it, the leg here has to go through the little hole down there, this outer one here. So that's going to be incredibly difficult to do. The important bit is, where's it gone? Yeah, the important bit is this bit here. You don't want to lose the bend in that, and it should have a straight bit on the end, and the straight bit hooks on the inside here, the little notch thing there. So yeah, give me a few hours and hopefully I'll get this in, but this goes on the bottom one there. I wanted to push it in. Yeah, you can see I'm knocking these ones at the sides here. It's not too much of a problem. I can straighten them in a sec, and then try and push it into position. Might be easier if I move these other 2 pins, but that's just give me 2 more pins to worry about then, isn't it? Right, so those outer ones are easy to swap. Ignore this bend. I can straighten that out. All the pins are okay. The inner ones, they're impossible. It's physically impossible. Once the way these are assembled, this bit on the end here is kind of glued on at the end, so it's like all the pins are all stuck in, they're bent down at 90 degrees, and then this base seems to be like stuck on. That seems to be how they're assembled. It's probably a case of the pins are put through the base, and then a machine pushes the base and the pins into the thing there. To see what I mean? That's probably what happens. So like if you try pushing this pin in here, look, you're stuck here because of the overhang. If you straighten it out, then you can't possibly bend it into the hole down there. The other thing I just tried to do, can you see I just widened the hole there a little bit with the theory of feeding the whole thing through here. Let me see if I can show you, like this, and curving it and bending it, but you see you get stuck at that point because it's such, this part here is so long, you can't even do that. The other thing I could do is cut temporarily this little piece of the plastic base off here and then stick it back on and epoxy it. That might be the only thing I can do, actually, thinking about this. Right, so you can see I chopped a very small piece of the base off. I'm going to stick it back on in a minute. So I've got that first pin in, the inner one. Can you see the gold bit there? Let me just see if I can get you focus. So you can see the little gold notches all the way along. That's fine, that's fixed it. And in the inside it's okay. So these longer pins, I pulled another one out. The one that I pulled out after I moved the base, you can see it's got like a 90-degree part. So I bent this one, the replacement, so it's exactly the same. So it should now be a case of going for the top slot here, top slot, looking along here as you push it in, and you've got to kind of angle it a little bit. This is where you need to use some fine nose pliers or something to help when you do this, because it's very difficult trying to hold the thing on the back here and aim it and get it so the little gold thing there fits in the right place. Do you see what I mean? It's like there's a little, it's that bit on the end there, that little tiny little bit that sticks out on the end there is the bit that goes into the tiny cavity at the top. So yeah, some trial and error, magnification, serious patience. There we go. I never want to see another one of those again, as long as I blooming live. So you can see the gold bits and the cavities properly there, and as you look into the slot with lighting, the gaps and things are perfect, so there's no issue there. So the final thing now is to slide this back on and epoxy it. The way to epoxy it is on the top side here, between the actual pins. Just get a blob of epoxy, actually. You could put some on the underside, but it's going to inhibit mounting it on the board, isn't it? You know, anything that sticks out there is going to get in the way. And I need to do this under magnification now. I need to slide all the pins very carefully. Well, I say all, there's like 3 pins that need to go through the holes here. And one of them is kind of on the edge, which is split anyway, so it should be really easy. Oh, I swear to God, I've been losing the will to live doing this. I kid you not, it took me about 2 hours to get this to this far. To get that to go back on with all the pins nice and straight. You can see that one there's bent a little bit. What we could do is just bend it a little bit this way, like that. There we go. So other than the split here, the plastic, we haven't glued that yet, you'd never know. And I've inspected down the gap there, the pins are all perfect, absolutely perfect. So the next thing to do, I think, is just to solder this back on, and then I'll inspect it afterwards. I'm going to focus on the ones around here that are damaged. So it honestly feels like I've been working on these 2 boards for an eternity. It's been hours today. The first one, not so difficult. This one has just been a pain. Anyway, we'll clean it all up. I'm going to get a bit of flux around there, we'll just reflow that, and then we'll go test them both. So I've got some flux around there. I can't show you all of this because I'm going to have to use magnification and get up really close. If we bridge anything, then I'll just use a bit of braid to remove that. Just get a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of solder on there. My cats are knocking everything off here, hang on. And we'll just have a dab into them like that, really. And there we go. So there was a bit of solder mass removed there, but as you can see, that's looking an awful lot better, that chip. So let's go give these boards a try. So my A1200 has been in the shade for a little bit. It's a bit dirty, there's a mark there that needs to be wiped off, and it's gone slightly cream, not completely yellow, but yeah, cream. I do have a new case actually that was given to me, I think it was by Cathers actually, I could be wrong, and I've got a new key set as well, but also there's a fault with this. I'll just show you. I'm not sure how well that's going to come across, but there's like a pink tinge to the display there, so it needs recapping. I think the caps are alright, I'm pretty sure they haven't leaked, but I suspect there's something else actually as a cause for the colour issue there. But anyway, we'll look at that in a separate video. And before I power it off, you can see there I've got 128 meg. I mean, it looks like 132 meg, but it's not. It's actually 128 meg of fast RAM. So on my ACA 1220, I've got a little pin header thing here. It's difficult for me to reach actually, it just needs pulling off there, I think. How's it coming out? There we go. So I have to remember it's the one towards the back there. These things are never easy to get out. The 1220 in particular, it's easy to chip the capacitors off the edge. It's kind of easier to hold the CPU there and just carefully wiggle one way or another and then just slide it out and carefully remove it that way. You can see this is the board I upgraded in a previous video. I put 25 MHz 020 on there, and this is currently run at 33. In retrospect, I didn't need to swap the crystal there. I mounted it at an angle because it was easy just to easily hot swap and change the crystals. I could in theory just take that off, flatten the pads and surface mount it again. You can actually get a clock module for these as well. It plugs on there. Anyway, hopefully I'll replace this with something a bit faster soon. So I changed my mind there. I'm trying the smaller one first because that bigger one is proving near impossible. There you go, look. Straight on. Yeah, that bigger one is proving very difficult to fit. Anyway, let's try that. Well, it's booted up, that's always nice to see. And it's showing 2 meg there, isn't it? 3 meg almost. It's a bit weird. Why have we got 3 meg? I'm not really sure what's going on there. It could well be the way it's switched, or there's a fault with it. Yeah, I think it's in the 4 meg mode at the moment, and some of that RAM's been used. You can see that it says total size 4 meg. And click next, 2 meg chip. So let me try switching that jumper over, because well, in fact there's not even a jumper on it. Let me try and fit a jumper and see if that switches it into 8 meg mode. Yeah, just temporarily borrow one of the jumpers from the other board. That says 4/8. So I suspect that was running in 4 meg mode. So boot it up again. Yeah, there we go, 8 meg. Fantastic. So the small one works fine. Obviously I'll do some tests on this. I'll get sys test on it, or sysdag, or dag test, whatever it's called. Test the RAM out, make sure the full 8 meg works, but I've got no reason to believe there would be any kind of problem with that. It was just about the connection there. Yeah, so back to that first one again. This is just a pain, this one, because it's like the board kind of gets in the way here. Can you see, look, you can't get this side here raised high enough to get it in line. It's almost like a really bad design. It's like the board is too big physically. The only way you could fit this really is to take the lid off. In theory, it should be sat on that lip there. Let's try that. Is it going to go in? It doesn't feel like it wants to. And I don't think it's anything to do with the new socket, because it's exactly the same as the other one, and it's as flat and as flush as it possibly can be. There's no gap or anything, and it's exactly the same dimensions. What's happened to the pins there, look? I think those have just caught on the inside, actually. Now, you know what? I've examined the original connector here in comparison to the replacement. The dimensions, while this is upside down, they're identical, absolutely identical. You know, in terms of thickness here, it is as flush mounted with that board as it can be. You can't be any more accurate there, and you can't misalign it. The issue here, I'm not impressed with this Amiga kit board. It needs trimming down. It's not, the dimensions aren't quite right. The problem is at the bottom here, the PCB is right on the edge, and this is as well. Both things. This needs to go up by like literally just 0.5 millimeter. And because of that, you can't even move it. It's like jammed. Look, the board is physically too wide. So I'm going to take a file to this side here and just file this down gently. Well, that was an absolute trauma, and I'm not just saying this. I kid you not, I've spent an hour trying to get this board working with my 1200. I've had to strip it down like this in order to be able to feed this in properly, but also make sure it goes right, you know, right in as far as it can possibly go. It won't go into the 1200 when it's assembled. Both those of the cards will. My ACA 1220 will, and the second board, this one, the one from E.G. Urana, those go in without an issue, no problems. This thing is near impossible to get in, and it's nothing to do with the socket that has been replaced there. This is probably how he's damaged it. The crazy thing is, I was getting red screens saying, you know, card had failed, you know, I couldn't get it to work. An orange screen, which I've never seen before. As you can see, we've now got 8 meg there. So I'll run some tests on this just to make sure it's okay. But I'm really annoyed at having to strip my machine right down in order to fit that in there. And I believe the problem is this top edge here. Can you see this top edge? Can you see how it's pressing really tight into the shielding? What they need to do is trim 1 millimeter off the edge of the board there. This side is fine. Can you see? This is where the plastic ends here, and then you've got the PCB. Now you can't adjust the socket. You can't adjust that anywhere. There's no way to move that anywhere. So they need to trim some of this PCB edge off here, because it is right up against the shielding. You know, you have to press it and force it so that it crunches against that shielding there. That is the issue. And there's nothing wrong with the shielding on this either. This is this stupid blooming board. As you can see, it's gone through the whole 8 meg there, 10 meg in total. No issues at all. But as I said, I've switched this off and on. Occasionally, I will get a red screen depending on where the position of the A1200 is. You know, if you just like knock it and then try power it off and on, you'll get a red screen. And I think that is just because, I mean, it's all right now, it's just because that memory expansion is pressed right up against the shielding there. That is the issue. I might try and shave a little bit more of it off, actually, just to try and make it fit a bit better. And it isn't just about this, actually. If you compare to E.G. Urana's, ignore the fact we've got a bit of flux on here still, it needs a bit more of a clean. I was wondering why you didn't extend the PCB right out, and I know why now. Because it gives you a little bit more flexibility with the board. When the board is right up there, especially with this here, it means that it's forced a certain way. So this is quite an intelligent idea here. It's not just saving the PCB length, because the other problem is I've had to undo the screw here, I forgot to mention that, yeah, so that the board comes up a bit. Now you may think, well, okay, maybe it's the socket, but like I say, these are identical. The only thing that's different here is maybe the thickness of the PCB. Let's just compare those. Even those are probably the same, I would think. Put them side by side, yeah, even those are the same. So I think it's all about the fact that this can bend up a little bit, whereas this is really rigid because of the PCB here. Does that make sense? You've got no flexibility. And in fact, you can see that there. You can see how this is bending up a little bit away from the edge. Not so much on that side. But I mean, if I show you this now, bear in mind you won't normally have a wire here where I have. If I just get this here, move my wire on top of it to make it a bit easier. So yeah, you can see there, it's right at the top here, lots of space down the bottom. And if you just try and pull it along, I can see straight away that the socket is not making a connection there. Now the socket is not rubbing on the shielding, the PCB edge is. And this is the difficulty. This is the difficulty. I probably need to lift the board a little bit here to try and get the two. Oh my goodness. I'm glad this isn't my expansion. It's a physical nightmare trying to get it in. I don't know. I don't know what the issue is. I think it's the shielding. I think it's the shielding here. I don't like this stupid bit here either. It's like, why not make the board a little bit longer instead of having a stupid bit that catches in a stupid way? I don't know, why is it not going in? It's like, say, look at this one. Right, let's just do the same thing with Iju Arana's board here. Make sure I get it the right way up. Yeah, let's just do the same with the Iju Arana's board here. And let's just see how this is different. You need to get that under there, first of all. Look, it's straight in. It's straight in. I think it's because, look up here, the PCB is not overlapping the connector. It's all about just the connector touching that shielding there, and that's okay. When you've got the PCB there as well, that causes you a nightmare. So that is what it is. There, look how much space there is here. A couple of millimetres from the PCB to the shielding. So Iju Arana's board is a really good one from Amiga Store, whereas this seemingly is a piece of shit. And you can see the same thing here, a giant gap. You know, this board, let me just pull this out. It goes in really easily again. It's like you just, put it into the right position, hold it up, press it at this point here upwards so that it's flat against the thing, and look at that. Straight into position, no issues. So it is all about this edge here. Testing some games out, no problems at all 8 meg fine. Both boards are reliable and rock solid. Deliberately trying to not hit anything here because I left the sound effects on. Sweet. So there we go, all done and dusted. I'll just give you a final look at these. Hopefully you'll be able to see. The pins are all sweet on there. Cats are fighting. And a quick look at this one as well. Not sure if you can see, but yeah, all the pins are good as new. So it was great that we were able to, well, it was great that he sent a spare connector, because that meant we could just swap one out and use the other one as a donor. I mean, I've now got a spare connector. You can see there's a few pins on the end there bent out of position. But I'm not quite sure why I cut the piece off there, actually. I think I tried it on there to see how it worked before I did it on the other one. That's what I did. Anyway, yeah, so both good as new. We reflowed around that CPLD there as well, a little Xilinx chip. Good as new. I'll find him a jumper for that. I might just ask him whether he's got one. And you can see the two broken pins there. That's all we had on one of the sockets there. Technically, there were like 4, I think, or so broken on the other one, on this one. There's some up here that are damaged on this one that you can just about see a bit of metal in there. And I think there's one here as well, so yeah, it mangled quite badly. My preference is the Iju Arana one, actually. What I would say to Iju is, can you extend this a little bit and stick an FPU socket on? Because you know, it's just a bit more desirable to some people. Some people want the FPU, and that's the only extra thing this provides. But also the Amiga Kit one has got the 5.5 meg mode there. Quite why you want 5.5 meg, I don't know. It's something to do with the compact flash compatibility, isn't it? So I think you can have compact flash and 5.5 extra meg of RAM. I think that becomes a moot point anyway. If you get one of the accelerators that had Zorro 3 RAM, you know, you then don't have the issue. I just have my PCM CIA slot enabled all the time, and I don't have any issues. So thanks to Alex for sending these. As I mentioned earlier, he's one of my patrons. If you can support the channel, see the links down below for Patreon and Coffee. Just donating $1 a month can mean the difference between me being able to do these videos and not at some point in the near future. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.